Good evening. My name is Fred Adams, and I am the Vice President and one of the founding partners of HSA for America. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I've invited everyone to attend a fairly brief presentation tonight where I'm going to be discussing what an amazing difference as little as $1 in your income can make to the amount that you pay for your health insurance premiums or for your actual out-of-pocket medical expenses over the course of the next year. And we've been hosting a series of webinars for the last couple of months talking about health care reform. And this evening, I don't really plan to get into a lot of the specifics of how reform is going to work, but I do want to talk just a little bit about the subsidies or tax credits that are available for people of certain income levels. And after I give a very brief overview of how the tax credits work, then I'm going to walk through a couple of examples to show you just what an extreme difference as little as $1 can actually make in your bank account over the course of the coming year. Now, at the moment, I do have the phone lines muted, so that way we don't get any background noise from anybody that may be on a cell phone or in a loud room. It should take maybe about 20 minutes to get through today's presentation, and as soon as I'm done, I'll unmute the phone lines, and I'll take as many questions as we have. And if any questions happen to pop to your mind as I'm speaking, you can feel free to go ahead and type them in the chat box that you should have on your computer monitor, and I will start by addressing any questions that we have in the chat, and then I'll unmute the phone line and move on to any questions that we have over the phone. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start looking at what a difference $1 can make. Now, when it comes right down to it, I really don't think that $1 in taxable income sounds like a lot of money, but by increasing or decreasing your modified adjusted gross income by as little as $1, it can make a huge difference in what you spend out of your own pocket next year, both for your health insurance premiums and for your health care expenses. And the reason that I say this is starting in 2014, individuals and families that make less than 400% of the federal poverty level, you're going to qualify for tax credits from the federal government that will be able to help you pay for your own health insurance. And these credits are received on a sliding scale, so the lower your income is, the larger your tax credit or your subsidy can be. And I'll also show a few examples just a little bit later on of how having an HSA qualified plan, it can give you a tremendous option that no other type of health insurance policy offers. Because if you do have an HSA qualified health insurance policy, any money that you place into your health savings account, it's going to lower your adjusted gross income and possibly help you qualify for larger tax credits. And we'll see a couple of examples momentarily how that $1 difference, even contributing as little as $1 more to your HSA account, could potentially save you thousands and thousands of dollars out of your pocket next year alone. Now, when it comes to your actual health insurance premium, one thing that I've seen through the first 3 weeks of open enrollment for health care reform has been the fact that a lot of people are shocked at how much this law is helping them. There are some people that I've spoken to in the last 3 weeks that were very against this law, that found once we actually ran some numbers and looked at quotes and subsidies available for their particular scenario, that they were going to wind up paying less for their health insurance next year than they do right now. And that is primarily older individuals that are in the middle income bracket or lower. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, I've talked to a lot of individuals, especially young, healthy males, who thought that this law sounded like a great idea. They think that it's great that everybody can have health insurance, that nobody can be turned down, there can't be any exclusions placed on your pre-existing conditions. But then when we actually look at the cost of what it's going to cost out of their pocket to have health insurance next year, I've seen cases where some, especially young men, are looking at paying 3 to 4 times more for their health insurance in 2014 than they pay today. And the reason that we're seeing this huge discrepancy that the majority of people did not see coming is these tax credits that I've been referring to. And there's 2 different types of tax credits available depending on your income bracket. The first thing we'll talk about is your actual insurance premium. And that's the amount of money you pay your insurance company every month for them to offer you a health insurance policy and to cover all of your bills after you've reached the deductible. Well, as we move forward into 2014 and beyond, you might not be paying all of your health insurance premium because for those individuals and families that make less than 400% of the federal poverty level, the federal government is going to offer you a premium tax credit that will help you pay for your health insurance. And I know a lot of people may not be aware of exactly what the federal poverty level is. So when I'm saying 400% of the federal poverty level, that may not mean a lot to you. But if you're an individual and you're making less than $45,960 next year as your taxable income, then the federal government's going to help you pay for some or all of your health insurance premiums. And if you're a family of 4, you can be making over $94,000 and still receive assistance in paying for your premium. So premium assistance is the first type of tax credit that we'll be looking at. But there's a second type of credit that's available that hasn't gotten nearly as much press or publicity. And that's something that's known as a cost-sharing credit. You know, as I said a moment ago, most of the tax credits that we've heard about on the news or in the press, they're talking about people that are receiving assistance for paying for their insurance premium. But if you make less than 250% of the federal poverty level, which if you're a family of 4, that's $58,875. So if you're making less than that particular income and you're a family of 4, not only is the federal government going to help pay for a portion of your insurance premium, but they're also going to offer you tax credits that will help pay for, in some cases, a significant portion of your out-of-pocket medical expenses. This can be things like your co-payments or your deductible that will be paid in addition to what your health insurance policy pays. Now, the single most important thing that I can stress to anyone when we're talking about the cost-sharing credits is they are only available if you purchase a silver-level policy through the federal exchange, or if you're in one of the 17 states that are running their own exchange, you would have to purchase your coverage through your state exchange. And if you do, if you were to have a silver policy and you made 250% of the federal poverty level or more, the most you would have to pay out of your pocket for medical bills next year, whether you had a bronze plan, a silver plan, or a gold plan, would be $6,350 if you're covered as an individual, or up to $12,700 if you're covered as a family. A family just means 2 or more. But if you're making between 200 and 250% of the federal poverty level, that $6,350 that you would have to spend if your income was a little bit higher, it drops down to just $5,200. And if you drop where you're making less than 200% of the federal poverty level, then suddenly the most you would have to spend out of your pocket if you have a silver level plan, drops to just $2,250. So we'll see a few examples in just a moment that will truly illustrate what a huge difference that a dollar here or there can make. And to do that, I'm going to leave my PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to go online to a subsidy calculator, and we're just going to look at a few different examples. And I live in the state of Georgia, in the wonderful city of Athens. So I'll use my zip code as an example to start with. And just for my first example, we're going to say that I'm covered as an individual and that my annual income is $22,980. Now, I'm 46 years old, and since we're using me as an example here, we will enter my age as well as my zip code. And there's a few things that I want to point out here. First thing that we see is at this income level, $22,980 for one person, you're making exactly 200% of the federal poverty level. And if that's what your income is, the law says that the most that you should pay for your health insurance premiums is 6.3% of your income. Now, to elaborate on that just a little bit, that doesn't mean that you can go out and purchase any health insurance policy that you want, and it only costs 6.3% of your income. What your tax credits are figured by is looking at what the cost would be if you purchased the second lowest cost silver policy available to you in your particular zip code. And what we see here is if I was to purchase that policy, for me, it would cost $3,527 a year. But since the Affordable Health Care Act says the most I would pay of my income at that income level for my insurance premium is $1,448. That would mean that the federal government would pay for me $2,079 of my insurance premium. And there's two different ways you can take this tax credit. Most of the people that I'm talking to are taking it in advance, which basically means that I would pay $1,448 to my health insurance company next year. The federal government would send my insurance company a check for $2,079. That's taking it in advance. That's what most people are doing. Now, if you're a little concerned and you don't want to take a bigger credit than you may wind up earning at the end of next year, since this is all based on next year's taxable income, you also have the option of going ahead and paying the entire health insurance premium throughout the year. And then when you file your tax return at the end of next year, so this would be in the year 2015, then if you did not take a credit or if you were due a bigger credit than you actually took, then the federal government would cut you a check for whatever credit you should have received. So you can get it in advance by paying the insurance company less every month, or you can take it when you file your tax return in the form of a nice big refund check. Now, there's one other thing I want to point out before I start altering the income a little bit here. And if I go down to the bottom of my calculator, it mentions what the annual out-of-pocket cost would be to me, and that means what's the most I would spend on medical bills. Now, I mentioned earlier, if my income was over 250% of the federal poverty level, my maximum out-of-pocket would be $6,350. Well, since this individual's income is between 200 and 250% of the poverty level, the most that they would pay out-of-pocket for their medical bills is $5,200. And that's because this individual is getting the cost-sharing credit as well that lowers their medical bills by $1,150. Now let's look and see, what if this individual had an HSA qualified plan and opened his HSA account and put in just $1. And that's actually not realistic. You'd have to put at least $10 into an HSA account to open the account. So we'll make it $10, and in some of my later examples, I'll use $1. And what we see is the credit to help pay my premium, it didn't change much at all. It went up by $4, I believe. But if I go down and I look at my out-of-pocket cost, since this individual is just a few dollars below 200% of the federal poverty level, the most they would spend on medical bills drops from $5,200 all the way down to $2,250. So again, if this person made over 250% of the poverty level, they're looking at spending $6,350 if they incur a lot of medical bills. But making less than 200% of the federal poverty level, that drops all the way down to $2,250. Now, I want to look a little bit at the other end of the spectrum. Let's say this individual got a nice raise this year, and his earnings went all the way up to $28,725. What we see now is he's not paying 6.3% of his income to purchase the second cheapest silver plan. Now he's paying over 8%. So his premium credit from the government drops down to $1,215. And if we look down here at his out-of-pocket costs, in a worst-case scenario, had a major accident or wound up with a big illness, he would spend $6,350. Well, if I was that individual and I made $6,000 less and my medical bills dropped by $4,000, that would really just kind of seem like a $2,000 raise to me, not a $6,000 raise, because that's what would be reality for me as an individual. So what if this individual maybe got a raise of $1 less or opened an HSA account and put a little bit of money in there? So we're going to lower his income by $1. Again, we see it doesn't change his premium subsidy very much. But when we go down here and look at his out-of-pocket medical expenses, it dropped by $1,150. All by lowering his taxable income by $1 single. Now, I know not everybody on the line lives in Georgia. Not everybody's an individual. So let's change our state a little bit. Let's pick Colorado. That's where our company is actually based. And we will enter a Fort Collins zip code. And I'm going to start off with this family making $31,020. And it's a family of two. We'll use my wife's age as an example. And once again, we see this couple, they're right at 200% of the federal poverty level for this pair of people in the state of Colorado. Their health insurance premium for the second cheapest silver plan goes up to $7,580. But since they only have to pay 6.3% of their income, they're only going to pay $1,954, which means the federal government's going to pay the other $5,626 of their insurance premium. And let's check on what their out-of-pocket expenses would be for their medical bills. It's $10,400. And the reason for that is they're at 200% of the federal poverty level. If they were at 250% or higher, that number would be $12,700. And once again, to illustrate tonight's primary point of what a huge difference $1 can make, I'm going to drop this couple's income by $1, and suddenly we see their maximum out-of-pocket spending on medical bills next year just dropped from $10,200 all the way to $4,500. Would save that particular family nearly $6,000 a year in medical bills. Now let's look at one more example. We're going to raise this family's income once again. We're actually going to put this family right at 400% of the federal poverty level. So if this family made $62,041, they're $1 above 400% of the federal poverty level, and we see they're not getting any premium assistance from the government. They're paying the entire $7,580 in their premium. And of course, if they had a bad year health-wise and they met their out-of-pocket spending limit, it's going to be the $12,700 that anybody would see on a bronze, silver, or gold plan unless they have a cost-sharing subsidy. And if we lower this couple's income by just $1, suddenly we see that the most they would pay for their medical bills, it's not the full amount of the premium. It's 9.5% of their income. So suddenly they're getting $1,687 from the federal government. And compared to some of the examples that I've shown so far, a $1,600 tax credit from the government isn't nearly as drastic as the last example, where somebody's potential medical bills drop nearly $6,000. But think about it for one moment, folks. This is somebody lowering their taxable income by $1, and suddenly they pay $1,687 less on their taxes or for their health insurance premiums next year, depending on if they took the credit in advance or after the fact. Just a couple more examples that I want to share with everybody. Not all families are childless. So we're going to add a child to this family. And just for now, I'm going to leave the income exactly the same as it was. And what we see is the premium for the family went up by about $1,500 a year to add the child. So the family's still paying the same 9.5% of their income that they did if they were a couple. But since the premium's higher, now they're getting a tax credit from the federal government of $3,117. And just to make the tax credit look a little bit bigger, let's assume that this couple is actually older. Let's push me and my wife, Lisa, fast forward a decade real quick, because the older we get, the higher our premiums become. And what
Hey, Fred?
Yes.
Can I interrupt a second? My screen is frozen, and I can't quite understand why. I'm sorry.
Let me see if... Okay, I have one of our other participants saying it's frozen. Bear with me just one second, everybody. I'm going to pause sharing my screen.
Thank you, sir.
And now, thank you for mentioning something, Amanda. There, is it moving now?
No, I'm still stuck on the same screen.
Okay, let's stop sharing. And I'm going to start sharing again. What about now?
Now, there we go. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks to you and Vivian both for pointing that out. As I was mentioning verbally when nobody could see just a moment ago, if we're looking at a couple that's age 56 and 61 living in Fort Collins, Colorado with one child, they make $62,040 a year. The most they're going to pay for their insurance is 9.5% of their income. Their insurance would cost over $13,000 a year, but their actual spending is capped at just $5,894, which means the federal government's picking up the tab for $7,123. Now, they're over 250% of the federal poverty level, so they're not getting any cost-sharing subsidy. Now, let's say that this couple, one of the two of them, did real well at work. wound up getting a big raise for the next year. Their income jumps to a little over $78,120. Well, the amount that they spend on their premium, it's still capped at 9.5% of their income. So the federal government's only paying $5,595. So that leaves this family of three paying a little over $7,400. Well, if they wound up getting a raise of an additional dollar, suddenly they lose all of their premium assistance. They're paying the entire $13,000 out of their pocket themselves. Now, I could certainly go through many more examples. They're applicable to some people. To others, they're not applicable at all. If you're making well over 400% of the federal poverty level, I applaud your work ethic and you doing so well in life. And unfortunately, you won't get any assistance from the federal government in subsidizing your insurance premium or your medical bills. Now, let's take away this $1 real quick, because I do have one other illustration that I want to make. Let's say that this family of three, they were making $78,120, and one of the two working individuals did so good at the end of the year that their boss wanted to give them a $6,000 year-end bonus. So suddenly their income's going to jump to $84,120, well over 400% of the poverty level. They're paying the entire bill themselves. So what could that family do to make sure that that entire $6,000 year-end bonus that they received didn't just vanish and go right back to the federal government because they had to refund any tax credits they may have been receiving? Well, if this family had an HSA qualified health insurance policy, they could turn around and put up to $6,450 into the account. So let's say they put in $6,100. And suddenly we see they drop just under 400% of the poverty level. The amount of their income they have to spend on their premium does get capped out at 9.5%. So by sticking $6,100 into a health savings account, they suddenly get a tax credit of $5,600. They're getting back all but $500 of that money they put into their HSA, plus their taxable income is $6,000 less. You can assume that's going to lower their tax return by roughly 30% of what they put in their HSA. So that's lowering their taxable income or their actual taxes on their income another $1,800. And in addition to that, that $6,100 they placed in their health savings account, it's theirs to spend on any out-of-pocket medical expenses that they ever incur the rest of their life. And if they do so, it will be completely tax-free. So in this particular instance, this family that thought they did great getting a $6,000 year-end bonus and suddenly realized, wait a minute, this is going to cost me $5,600 more on my health insurance. By taking the one extra step and having an HSA qualified plan, sticking that $6,100 in their health savings account, they get to keep their $5,600 premium credit. They lower their taxable income by $1,800, so they're already ahead $1,300 compared to if they just kept that $6,400. And then in addition to that, they have that $6,100 in a health savings account that they can use at any time in the future to make sure that any medical bills they do have to pay are paid with dollars that weren't taxed whatsoever. And that's one reason why I said early in this evening's conversation that having an HSA qualified health plan will give you options that no other insurance policy out there could possibly offer, because there's no other vehicle in this country that has quite the same tax advantages as having a health savings account. And you can only open an HSA and put tax-free money into it if you have a policy that says in the policy, this is qualified high deductible health plan, which works with a health savings account. And again, I could go through an endless array of examples this evening, but I think I've probably illustrated my two major points tonight. The first being that $1 in taxable income, whether it's earning $1 more or $1 less, can impact you by thousands and thousands of dollars next year. As well as my second point, that having an HSA qualified plan and having the option at the last minute as you're filing your tax return to put away up to $3,250 if you're on an individual policy, or up to $6,450 if you're on a family plan, it potentially could save you more in taxes than the money that you put into the savings account, which according to my understanding of mathematics, that makes it a win-win-win situation that you can't possibly not come out ahead, whether you incur a lot of medical bills or not. So I've been telling people for nearly 10 years that for the vast majority of Americans and the vast majority of people that I talk to and actually review their insurance coverage, that an HSA is hands down the way to go. And that's been true since the law was passed and HSAs came to be in the year 2004. And it's going to be just as true as we move forward into the future now that health care reform is being fully implemented in 2014. So with all that said, I don't see that we've had any questions come in on the chat box. So give me one moment to unmute the lines, and we'll see if anybody has any questions they want to ask on the phone tonight.
Hey, Frank, this is Chase in Memphis. Great presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Tell you what, so I'm just trying to make sure I understand this correctly. If I've got an HSA and I qualify for a subsidy, as long as I buy the HSA compatible plan through the exchange, I can put money into my HSA and have that count against my taxable income and thus increase my subsidy.
Yes, sir. You got it 100% accurate. And let me take that just one step further, if you don't mind, Chase, before you ask any other questions, because one thing I didn't mention is if you have an HSA qualified policy, you would have to have your health savings account open by the end of 2014 to be able to make a contribution. But once your account is open, you have until April 15th of the following year to put money into the HSA and count it as a 2014 contribution. So you could literally be sitting in your accountant's office in April 2015, and if you had purchased an HSA qualified policy on the exchange and you had opened your health savings account and put in as little as a $10 opening deposit, if you and your accountant see, oh, well, my income's just $5 over the threshold, if I put $5 more into my HSA, I could increase my tax credits, or heaven forbid, if you had taken too much of a credit in advance and you were looking at having to pay that money as a refund, well, it would make all the sense in the world to me to go throw, whether it's $5, $500, or $5,000 if you're on a family plan. If you're going to save more in taxes than you put into your own personal bank account that you can use at any time in the future, it just gives you a beautiful option that no other type of policy in this country offers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any follow-up questions, Chase?
I think that's enough for me to mull for the moment. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Well, thank you for joining me this evening, and I apologize to everybody about our brief technical difficulty. I hope everything was at least coming through clear on the phone. Do we have any other callers with questions? If so, maybe just state your first name and let me know where you're calling from, much like Chase did, and throw any questions you may have at me. one more chance. Any questions this evening? Well, if not, I'll just close by saying this. I know most of the people that had signed up for this evening's webinar are actually already clients of HSA for America. So for that, I thank you. For anybody that's here that is not yet a client, I thank you for your time this evening as well. And I just want to let you know, if you ever have any questions or you need assistance in finding health insurance, whether it's today or at any time in the future, and no matter what your income level is, or if you want to purchase on the exchange or not, HSA for America is here to help you. And there's absolutely no cost whatsoever for our services, just like any other insurance agency in this country. We're compensated by the insurance companies. They pay us a commission for what we sell. And if you buy on the exchange or direct from an insurance company, or if you seek the free expert advice from HSA for America, the price of the health insurance policy you purchase will be exactly the same. Just because you were to buy from us or any other agent, the price is not going to change from what you would see if you just went to the exchange on your own, if you were even able to log in and actually get quotes. But we can help you get quotes whether the exchange is working or not. We have logins to all the different insurance company websites, and by this point we have a good idea in most of our bigger markets which company is offering the best rates on the exchange. But we're here to help you shop each and every product that's out there to find the one that's going to be best suited for your personal situation, because it is our stated mission, and it's something that I've done for the last 25 years, to help as many of my fellow Americans as I possibly can keep as much money in their bank account as possible. And the way that I do that is by helping you find the lowest possible health insurance plan, while at the same time finding the health insurance policy that's most likely to provide you with the coverage you need when you need it the most. So we're here to do everything we can to help you pay as little in premium every month as possible, and to leave you with the health insurance policy that when the day comes that you do need medical assistance, that you will pay as little out of your own pocket as possible. So I thank everyone again for their time this evening. If you do need our assistance, please give us a call anytime. It's 866-749-2039. Again, that's 866-749-2039. We're here to help. There's no charge whatsoever for our services, and we will give you the best expert advice possible. So thanks again for your time, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Have a great night.